Hello all you XCOM loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic and today we're going to be reviewing Shock Tactics, which is a new single-player turn-based strategy game developed by Point Blank Games and published by Euro Video Media. For all intents and purposes, Shock Tactics is an XCOM clone, but it's an XCOM clone that has its own unique twist on certain systems. The game is set on the planet of Hephaestus, which is a brand new planet explored in the galaxy, and you land as part of the first wave of the Freer Space Pioneers faction. And so you're set out to explore this newly discovered alien planet. There are alien mysteries, including alien technology on that planet. So it's about setting up your base of operations and then exploring this planet. Now, on top of that, you will also have interaction with pirates and the Imperial Consortium. Now, the Imperial Consortium is going to invade this planet because it has alien technology and newly discovered resources in around 200 days. And so you have this doomsday clock basically for the first 200 days, which is basically 200 turns. And you then have to prepare for their invasion. Now, once that invasion happens, that the game does not stop. It just basically becomes more difficult because it means that the Imperial Consortium troops have landed, and so they have a much more heavy military presence upon Hephaestus. So first, I'm going to start with the positives of the title, the things that I thought were very well executed and overall provide a solid experience. The first is the base building, and the game has your base of operations, and you can go out and capture new outposts which will basically generate you resources. But your solid base building, your core of the base building idea is that you have this base in the middle of Hephaestus and you can build facilities, upgrade facilities, and as you upgrade these facilities you will be able to access new items and new services. So you can build a training facility that will be able to train your troops in to have new abilities and combat statistics. You can build a tech forge which basically harnesses the power of the alien technology, and you can then build new weapons and armor. And it's very similar to XCOM in that way. It's just designed differently in terms of its interface, but at its core mechanically it's very similar and it works very well for the most part. The next is, of course, the combat. Now, the combat is something that any XCOM fan, or any turn-based strategy fan for that matter, will be right at home with. It's a really simple, easy-to-use system that doesn't really do anything to break the mold of what has come before. Now, just because it doesn't differ in terms of mechanics from what has come before doesn't mean that that's necessarily a bad thing, because in fact we know that system works well, and in here, in Shock Tactics, it's also executed very well this time round. I have to say I loved the world design, the level design, the randomly generated levels that you do tend to get on each playthrough. They all worked very well and it provided a really unique experience. I loved the verticality of the levels so that it wasn't just, you're playing on a middle of a grass field. There are mountains, there are lots of cover systems involved, and the entire thing for the most part combines itself in terms of combat to produce a really coherent experience for turn-based strategy fans. When you get to the later levels, when you get involved with higher level armor and higher level weapons and shields and all that kind of thing, the combat does become more tactically deep and you need to be a lot more careful. Another great point of the combat is the AI. Now, the AI itself can be really, really dumb sometimes, and I have to say that it is not the best AI I've ever seen, but the combat still remains difficult. You can't take many hits. Permadeath is obviously involved because it's an XCOM clone, so if your soldiers die and you aren't able to stabilize and warp them out, then they will be gone forever, including all the weapons and armor that they had. So if you heavily invested in a soldier and you have a lot of connection with that soldier because they've been through several missions with you and they suddenly get taken out by a sniper, then that's life and that's the end of it, and you'll have to just soldier on without. For me, where Shock Tactics differentiates itself compared to other games like XCOM is in its overworld exploration. In games like XCOM, you will have the entire layout of the map, and then the missions will spawn and you will go and do those missions. In Shock Tactics, you are on an unexplored planet that has a multitude of different mysteries, and so you have a fog of war on the overworld map. You travel around in your ATV, and as you move tiles, a day goes by, which is basically a turn, and then you unlock new, vision of the map, and you can see what's around you. There are side missions, there are main story missions, there are outpost missions, and the mission variety itself is fairly decent. You have everything from extracting someone to saving people to killing all the enemies to time-sensitive missions, and so the pacing and the variety in the actual mission objectives and the mission modes works very well, and it's something that is probably one of the standout features of the game for me. For a little indie XCOM clone, I have to say I was really impressed with the exploration. It gave you a sense of direct control of what was happening in terms of progressing this story and progressing the world. In terms of the story, I have to say that I did enjoy the story. Was it the best written story I've ever seen? No. Was it the best executed I've ever seen? Definitely not. The voice acting is a little bit sketchy at times. The overall execution of the writing is a little bit sketchy at times, but it's enjoyable for what it is, and it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. Where the game really does have its flaws is in the execution of pretty much everything from polish to the actual pacing. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that the game is pretty bug heavy as it currently stands, and I'm sure that this will be patched out over time, but I did experience crashes, I did experience really odd little bugs in UI systems and things popping up when they shouldn't be, for example. So when I was moving through my base and the game was loading or something like that, or it was changing, and then a story moment would pop up where the text was showing but the VO wasn't working, or vice versa, the VO was working but the text wasn't showing as it usually does. There's moments where the story starts playing a certain segment even though it's not directly related to what you're seeing on screen because it's either delayed or too early, and so there's just multiple points like that that really do break the immersion and really show in terms of the quality of the polish of the game that it's just severely lacking in that regard. The same goes for the graphics. The graphics are nothing stand out. It is an indie game, which is not a problem. It looks nice for what it is, but it does show its edges here and there, especially when it comes to enemy movement. In terms of the turns, you'll just get enemies spawning out of thin air, and that is very much problematic and it's very noticeable. In terms of sound, again, it's very mediocre in that regard. There's no real solid soundtrack to bring out the experience of exploring this alien world. The VO, like I've said, is fairly mediocre. And overall, in terms of execution, in terms of polish, it is lacking in that regard. It's certainly something that can get better over time, particularly with the bugs, the visual issues, and the crashes. But overall, as it currently stands, it certainly lacks a hell of a lot of polish, which is a real shame. But what does this mean overall? Well, overall, it means that Shock Tactics is actually mechanically and in terms of its content, a bloody fantastic indie XCOM game. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It has some really nice features in there. It has some really nice things going for it. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I have to say, I still fell in love with the level design, fell in love with the core combat, fell in love with the progression systems, especially fell in love with the exploration and the overall story and objective, but the execution is certainly lacking in the visual audio department and the technical performance. Now, for me, I would say if you are a really big fan of XCOM, then it's probably worth just buying this at launch and having a lot of fun with it. However, if you are someone who is going to be really bothered by bugs or bothered by the fact that things start appearing on screen when they shouldn't appear, UI interface issues, all that kind of thing, then I would suggest you wait until those have been patched out. Once those have been patched out and a lot of the bugs and issues have been fixed, it's definitely a must buy for me if you enjoy this kind of game. Definitely a must buy. But until that time, I would probably say just wait maybe a month or two, maybe even less than that, maybe 2 to 3 weeks for those initial bugs to get fixed, and then purchase the game, and you will have a lot of fun with it because it's packed full of content. You will get hours and hours of enjoyment out of Shock Tactics, and for the most part, it's a very charming indie game that fans of XCOM will absolutely adore. So for me, it is a must buy, but for most of you, it will likely be just wait a month. Just wait a couple of weeks for those issues to be patched out and then go pick it up because it will be well worth it. And that is my review of Shock Tactics. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are on the video in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video on social media. And as always, I will see you next time.